Now, you can fool a few people, and you can maybe even fool your pastor, but you're not going to fool God. You see, in that moment when the song ends and the people don't respond the way you thought they should respond, that's when, as a worship leader, you start prompting and you start trying to make things happen in your own strength, so it looks like what happened last week. And wow, I just think when you start doing that, I think that's the beginning of the end of your ministry. Just check this scripture out. Amos, let me just read this scripture to you. Remember, we're talking about don't finish in the flesh what God began in the spirit. You got to stay pure in these things. Amos chapter 5, verse 21 through 24. Listen to this. This is God speaking. I despise your feast days, and I do not savor your sacred assemblies. Though you offer me burnt offerings and your grain offerings, I will not accept them, nor will I regard your fattened peace offerings. Now here's what I never want to hear from God. Verse 23, take away from me the noise of your songs, for I will not hear the melody of your stringed instruments. But let justice run down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. My friend, you don't want to finish in the flesh what God began in the spirit. And you know what? Just don't go there. Don't try to manipulate and work up an audience. As a worship leader, I know there are times when we need to encourage or exhort our audience, the congregation. I get that. But there's a point where you just got to lay it out there and say, this is what I think we were supposed to do. We did it with a pure heart. We were seeking the Lord about our song list. And Lord, the rest is up to you. Don't try to make something happen where it looks like and sounds like it did last week when God really moved. Every week's got to be fresh. And this goes for congregations as well. Don't put your pastor in a place where every single week it's got to be this over-the-top camp meeting experience, because we're just men, we're just people, and we have flaws. I think I want to build a healthy church. I want our churches to be a healthy family, and a healthy family doesn't always eat steak and have a huge celebration every night. Sometimes you're ordering pizza, sometimes you're going to have hot dogs, and sometimes you're going to have a feast. And I think the same time when we come together, you always know that God is working and moving, but he is more interested in where your heart's coming from. Jesus said the Father's looking for worshipers who will worship him in spirit and in truth. You got to be truthful about how we come into God's presence. It's got to be honest. It's got to be sincere. You got to be transparent and vulnerable. And in order to worship in spirit and in truth, you got to get all this flesh out of the way. Don't try to make something happen and fake out the people that, oh, wow, we had a great camp meeting. God's always looking at your heart.